Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for attending our first AFDAC meeting for 2021. My name is Ellen Alster. I'm the staff liaison for the Agriculture and Forestal District Advisory Committee. We have some special precautions that we're doing during this virtual meeting, so I will turn it over to our chair, Stanley Franklin.
All right. You all have the memorandum which sets forth a requirement for electronic meeting for emergency procedures, Freedom of Information Act detail. I ask you to review that memorandum again. One of the things that we have to determine is that all members can hear every other member. A minimum of 6 members are present and establish a quorum. An emergency exists to justify this electronic meeting. Matters we will address today are necessary to discharge AFDAC's responsibility. I have reviewed those items. I don't think it's worth reading them again because you all have the electronic meeting requirements, item 3 and 4 on page 2 of the memorandum. Unless there is any objection, I will determine that we have met those conditions. Does anyone have any objection or comment?
For the record, Mr. Franklin, can you do a roll call just so we have it on the official recording? Can you do a roll call of everybody here?
I'll do it. Mr. Cox?
That's fine. Good.
Doshi? Mr. Doshi? I don't hear Mr. Doshi.
Mr. Doshi, can you unmute? Let me see if he's muted. He's in the meeting, but he's not muted, but oh, I see him. Oh, he's got his microphone on. Okay.
All right. Well, Franklin is on from my home office. How about Mr. Faust? How about Mr. Hampshire?
Present, no objection.
Good. Ms. Newcomb?
Yes, here.
And Mr. Nichols?
When you guys have the conversations about the cost of, and I wasn't part of the conversations about the streetlights, the signals, for example. I was peripherally involved in some of those, but not.
Ellen, can you mute Andrew?
Details, but like, when you talk about the cost for.
Hey, this is Andrew. I am here and present. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Nichols is here.
Mr. Barnes?
I am present from my home office. I have no objection.
And Mr. Strafer?
I'm here from my home office, no objection.
Anybody make a count of that? I still did not hear Mr. Doshi.
Present, are you able to hear me?
Yes, now.
Thank you.
And Mr. Painter just arrived. Can you please call him also?
Yes, I am here and I also have no objection.
Fine, thank you. We have a quorum. I have no objection to the determination that was recited before we have determined the quorum, and we will have the minutes properly reflect that. And I would now say that this meeting is called to order, and the May 18th agenda you should have before you. We've already done the announcements involving the pandemic, special motions, roll call, and call to order. And we now have a reference to the tribute to Aaron Haley, and I'll ask Ellen to provide that.
Yeah, I just wanted to do a remembrance of Erin Haley, who is the one who trained me in my role as the AFDAC liaison. She passed away at the end of February 2021, unfortunately, from complications, I believe, of COVID. So it's been a very kind of unfortunate and odd year. So we really miss her in this branch. And I also wanted to introduce our new branch chief, Kelly Atkinson. She is replacing, we're really happy to have her. She came from Zoning and Evaluation Division, and she's very experienced at leading us well. And Kelly, you want to just say hi for a minute?
Hi, happy to join my first AFDAC meeting.
Welcome
Look forward to working
aboard.
with all of you.
Thank you, Kelly. We look forward to meeting you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Andrew Painter, and I'm sorry I can't get my video to work for some reason, but back to what Ms. Alster had said, and welcome Ms. Atkinson to AFDAC. I just wanted to just highlight or just underscore what Ms. Alster had said. My experience working with Ms. Haley was second to none. She was a very sweet, caring person, just a very nice person and a delight. And I appreciated her time working with us, and she will certainly be missed. But I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate those comments, and I endorse them. Any further comments? Let's turn to.
I want to thank you for your comments, Ms.
Let's turn to old business, the minutes from January 21 meeting, which referred to a meeting of a year before. And you should have those minutes before you. And are there any comments or corrections to those draft minutes for January 21st, 2020? Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
This is Ken Strafer. I say approve.
Agree. Jeff Barnes.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the meeting's minutes are approved. Let's turn to the information items next on our agenda. The Agritourism Zoning Ordinance Amendment Update, Sarah Morgan. And would you all just go ahead and carry that forward on the information items?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarah Morgan. I spoke to you all about a year ago about the proposed zoning ordinance amendment for agritourism. I'm with the Zoning Administration Division, and joined on this call is also Bill Mayland, my supervisor, who has also been working on this. I know Jeff Barnes and Eric Cox have heard my spiel many a time on what we're doing with the amendment. So I thought I'd give you all a brief update of where we are. We are currently in the public hearing process. The amendment has been authorized, and we went to the Planning Commission for their public hearing last Wednesday. They chose to defer decision, so we are going back tomorrow as a decision only item tomorrow evening. So we will be getting their decision. It's currently scheduled for the board's public hearing on June 8th, but we anticipate that meeting being pushed to later in June, given the discussion that was had at the Planning Commission public hearing and some changes that will likely be introduced tomorrow evening regarding the proposal. So just to orient you to the amendment, we are looking at establishing agritourism provisions. The state code requires us to allow agritourism as a by right use in association with agricultural operations. And the only time a locality is able to regulate an agritourism use is if there is a substantial impact to health, safety, or general welfare. And they don't give us any criteria to measure what is considered a substantial impact. So our office has been handling this existing agricultural use on a case-by-case basis to determine if it is by right or if it needs further review as there is some kind of substantial impact that's going on. So we are looking to create these provisions in an effort to kind of bring it into the public realm. It's currently the administrative process with our office. So by creating these provisions, we're creating a more consistent and predictable path forward for not only the agritourism providers, but the surrounding communities as well. So the amendment includes a definition for agritourism, and it's heavily influenced by the state code. It also includes a list of agritourism activities, which include farm tours, harvest your own activities, seasonal festivals and attractions, events, hiking, horseback riding, and other natural activities, historical and cultural activities, and then other activities as determined by the zoning administrator. As we know, we can't anticipate everything that someone is going to include, so we included that last item as well in the definition. The agritourism provisions are regulated on a tiered basis, depending on the acreage you have, and then that yields you a certain total number of attendees per day. There's also standards that are included for by right agritourism activities for when you are an administrative permit use or when you are seeking a special exception. And those provisions include standards surrounding parking, attendees, and then with the administrative permit as well as the special exception, you would have to include a transportation management and parking plan that shows how you are adequately accommodating the parking on the property, the ingress and egress, and any measures to take that are being preventing that stacking occurring on public right-of-way. You'd also have to include a sanitation description of how you're handling that for both the public and your employees. So that's kind of a rundown of what the agritourism amendment is. We also have other related changes on bed and breakfast, food trucks, wayside stands, and farm worker housing. If any of you have any questions, I can answer those directly. But right now, we're currently in a holding pattern until tomorrow evening, when we hope to get a decision from the Planning Commission.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Morgan? Thank you, Ms. Morgan.
This is Jeff Barnes.
Yes, Jeff.
Ms. Duncan, I know that you were at last week's public hearing. Could you give us, the committee, a synopsis of the concerns that were raised and maybe the number of people who spoke for and against, so that we have an idea of what happened at that public hearing?
Sure.
Thank you.
So the public hearing was held last Wednesday, as I said. We had, I believe, 13 speakers in total. One of them dropped off at the end, but then someone came back on. So I think the total ended up being 13. All were in opposition of the amendment in some capacity, varying degrees of what they were taking issue with the amendment. A lot of the items that came up that were in opposition were regarding environmental concerns in regards to the Occoquan watershed as well as the RC district, and the addition of any kind of pavement in those areas as it is environmentally sensitive. So you'll see tomorrow evening we'll have discussion on that as well, introducing some standards to address those concerns. They also had issue with the addition of weddings to be included as a agritourism activity. That is codifying existing practice where we allow weddings at farm wineries and at agritourism activities currently. We have noted that and told the board that they are not explicitly included in the state code definition for agritourism, but the state code definition is very broad, and we feel that we are proposing something within that definition, although that is a disagreement between the public that testified and staff. So those were the two big ticket items where people had concerns, and some of that will be addressed tomorrow with proposed language.
Any further comments? Hearing none, let's move on to the one Fairfax acknowledgement, which you have sent us correspondence and forms and that sort of thing, Ellen. So do you have anything further about that other than the date by which we need to sign our agreement to acknowledge?
Yeah, I actually had just a reminder that I wanted to remind you it was sent to you. I can resend it if people misplaced it in their inbox. It was sent on April 30th. I also wanted to thank Eric Cox. We had sent out previous to all of this, I had sent out the boards and commissions had a training video for one member of each board and committee, and Mr. Cox graciously attended, and he let me know that he thought this was a fantastic training session. It sounded like he was very taken with it. So I told him a few days ago, I didn't put it on the agenda, but that he could just share with the rest of the committee what he had learned at that session. That was, I think, in April sometime. Mr. Cox, can you share with us what you learned there?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I mean, yeah, I was very impressed with the presentation. Certainly, this is a fiery subject, racism in the United States at this point. But I think they spent most of the time convincing. There was about 80 of us, I think, on. We were participants. We were totally muted the whole time, but we could use the chat. That racism, systemic racism, does exist, and it's system-wide, be it healthcare, financial, education, and it's pervasive. The way I say it is like a fish in water. The fish doesn't know the water's there. It just is, and that's the way we've lived a lot of our lives, and it's easy for people like myself to have this, what I call white privilege, or we call it that, and they didn't use that term, and they never talked about really deep solutions. We spent 3 hours going over what it is and the counter arguments that you typically hear. Well, blacks tend to be socioeconomically disadvantaged, so they're not going to have these outcomes. Even when all those things were adjusted in these, very well done studies, quite a few of them, it still came out that there's something going on, and that's why they called it the groundwater project, because it's like you can't see it, and they say, like, in the United States, 95% of our water is underground. We can't see it, but it's there, and there's something wrong with the water. So I'll just leave it at that. But I was very impressed with the presentation.
Thank
Any
you very much,
questions?
Eric.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any further comments on the acknowledgement? Hearing none, let's hear an update on Normandy Farm and Maine Manor since over a year ago.
Yeah, I'll just keep that brief. I just wanted to know that since the FDAC meeting, the ordinance provisions changed for anybody who's interested, because one of the key provisions was they wouldn't do any disturbance within the RPA. And actually, when I listened to the meeting minutes, Mrs. Yankin actually indicated that they had an Army Corps permit they were going to do some dredging in the pond and in the stream bed. So we modified, they were doing it all accordingly. They had a grading permit through Fairfax County. But we did modify their ordinance provisions to account for the work that they were doing, the extensive grading they were doing in the RPA. And they have since they're planting it right now, I believe. Willie and I have gotten a couple of announcements about that. So I just wanted to let you know, it was deferred a couple times at the Planning Commission, I think, and ultimately, obviously, it was approved. So that's the updates to that. And I'll just keep going on. We have renewal applications. We have a new one that's already accepted. The Costers A&F. So we have a really busy year through the end of 2021. So Costers is already received and it's going to be worked on soon. The Cox Farm, we've gotten a new application, hasn't made it quite through processing, and also the very big one, Castro, which is 118-acre local district. And then we have 3 more that we have not yet received applications for. And one of them, Hugh, that's yours. So let's go hoping to see you today and give you a little push, because it does take a number of months to get it through they just take a lot of steps to getting them renewed and planning the PC hearing and the date, and then again. So we're trying to not have so many meetings for AFDAC. So we'd like to, we have one that's already, the Costers one has a PC date, and I think it's September 22nd. So we would like, ideally, to get a second one, that we don't have to have like 5 meetings, 1 meeting for each renewal. So
I think I understand what you're saying.
any questions?
All right, let's move on to new business. Do we have the applicants with us today for the Crump A&F district?
They let me know that they were having trouble. They did get to send the invitation, and I just heard from Mr. Bennett that they didn't have what their computer, somehow they didn't have the facility, and he was going to log on through the phone. I advised him on that, and I don't know if he's in the call. Is the applicant here?
Okay.
Yes, Betsy Crump here.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank
Oh,
you. Thank you
wonderful.
very much.
Wonderful. I had asked Mr. Hampshire to pay particular attention to this application because it's in his neck of the woods. I haven't had any communication with GIF recently, but why don't, between you and Ellen, make your report, please, and you all figure out who's going to talk first.
Stanley, sorry about that. I visited the property last night and spoke with Mr. Crump, and I can talk about that, but I think it would probably be best for Ellen to move forward with the report first, and I'll add on after that.
Good plan. Ellen?
Okay, I'm hoping this is going to work. I'm going to share my screen so you can see it all. So let me know if you unmute, and let me know if you can't see it. Y'all seen it?
Yes, you
Yes.
might want to go into slideshow.
Okay. Okay, that's what I was going to do. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ellen Alster from the Department of Planning and Development. This application would establish the Crump Local Agricultural and Farm Cell District for an initial 8-year term. The 22-acre property is located at 12,000 Henderson Road in the Springfield District. 2 other A&F districts are nearby. The property is 400 feet north of Fountainhead Regional Park and the Occoquan River. The property is zoned RC, which allows for 0.1 to 0.2 dwelling units per acre and private open space. It is one of the larger properties in the vicinity. Currently, the site has a residence, tennis court, a stables and indoor riding arena, 2 barns, and a small pond. Wolf Run and its tributaries form the western property edge. 2 smaller drainages flow downstream across the property from parcels to the east. The property has been owned by Donald and Chesley Crump since 1991. Donald Crump passed away in August 2020. Chesley Crump is the remaining property owner. The applicants, Rebecca Crump and her husband, Brian Bennett, are acting on behalf of Rebecca's mother, Chesley Crump, in forming the new district. Rebecca Crump and Brian Bennett currently live on the property. The developed portions of the property are characterized by mown pasture framed by wooden fencing and include several decorative features, such as this fountain. A half-mile of paved asphalt drives connect areas of the property. The woods in the background, as well as a portion of the riding arena and pasture shown, are delineated as resource protection areas. The developed portion predates the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance and is grandfathered in. The map shows the 8.37 acres of resource protection area, which is the red speckled area of the map. The large gray rectangle is the riding arena and stables. The blue speckled area is classified as floodplain. As part of this application, staff determined that 5.84 acres met the comprehensive plan criteria as environmental quality corridor. This is the green hatched area. Horses were kept on the property until a recent flood, which took out sections of fencing, as can be seen in this photo. The 2 horses living on the property were moved off-site. No horses are currently on site. The applicant has indicated that past equestrian use has been for their own personal use only, and that any future equestrian use will be the same for their own use only. Willie Wood, the conservation specialist from the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District, visited the site last February and provided recommendations. These included the establishment of a 35-foot planting buffer adjacent to Wolf Run, new fencing, and pond improvements. Jim McGlone from the Virginia Department of Forestry visited the site in December 2020 and made recommendations regarding tree and forest management. Recommendations from both agencies include invasive species management and the establishment of the 35-foot planting buffer adjacent to Wolf Run. The planting buffer will prevent pollutants from entering the Wolf Run watershed and protect the Aquacan reservoir. They also made recommendations regarding erosion adjacent to the pond. Recommendations have been included in the proposed ordinance provisions. Staff finds that the proposed district satisfies all Group A criteria of the A&F Code for Group B criteria and meets the minimum district acreage and other requirements of the code. Should it become a district, it would be expected to meet all other ordinance provisions. Based on the information provided by the applicant, staff recommends approval of the application subject to the proposed ordinance provisions. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Any further comments? Staff has a recommendation before us. Gift, do you want to join in?
Thank you, Stanley. I'll just report to the group that I was able to get by and was kindly met on the property by Mr. Crump at about 7:20 or so last evening. Viewed the property, heard about the background of the property from Mr. Crump, heard about the projects in the past and the projects planned for the future. And I was impressed by the long stewardship, if you will, of the property by the Crumps, and certainly respect their desire to preserve the property and keep the property in the family as one generation perhaps phases into another. And I think it's something that fits, as the staff report says, fits nicely within, or fits squarely within the criteria A and criteria B, the criteria that are listed there. Currently, there are no, as the staff report said, as Ellen said, there are no horses on the property, but there is the intent to have horses in the future. The property is mostly floodplain, or at least it has a lot of floodplain, and we did discuss the issues with the flooding of Wolf Run as it goes over into the pasture, and some challenges with bamboo, which, as everybody here knows, once that gets going, it's very hard to eradicate. But the overall impression is a family that cares deeply about the property and cares deeply about preserving it, which is something that this law is designed to do. So I'm prepared to vote in favor of the application, consistent with the staff recommendation.
Thank you very much, Gift. That was a very positive and helpful report, and one which is going to considerably influence my position. Any other member or the applicant have any further comment? Hearing none, do I hear? Go ahead.
I don't know if anybody told you that my dad, before he passed away, he wanted us to be able to afford the property. We told him that we didn't know if we could keep it because it was so expensive, the taxes on it. My dad grew up very poor in DC and worked 365 days a year. And he was so proud of the property that he took me out on the front porch and he said, you know, I never thought I would own something like this in my whole life. When he was a kid in DC, he worked at gas stations starting at 7 years old, and he exercised all the horses over at Rosecroft. And he was very concerned that He wanted us to have it because we're the ones that improved the property so much, and he could never have lived there without us taking care of it and taking care of him. My dad was on dialysis 6 years, and my mother has dementia. And during the 6 years, I took care of him and did the dialysis at home. And he used to sit on the front porch and just glaze over Wolf Run. You know, we were very concerned whether we would be able to do it. So that's pretty much, you know, how much we love the property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very moving statement. Does anyone have anything further to add? Hearing none. Giff, are you in a position to make a motion?
Yes, sir. I move that the committee endorse the staff recommendation and recommend approval of the Crump AF 2021 local ANF district to the Board of Supervisors. Or is it?
Hear the motion. Is there a second?
I second the motion. This is Jeff Barnes.
Thank you, Jeff. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? Hearing none, the recommendation of staff report is approved. Thank you all very much for that effort. Now we're going to turn to our perennial issue, which Giff is going to help us with again, and that's
Right.
drafting of our bylaws.
Right. Well, maybe I could say if I weren't out at the Crump property last night, I would have had them done. How would anybody believe that?
No.
But I do, Ellen, I do appreciate you resending them. And I carry them on my list here, and I just have to find a few minutes to get to them. I'm sure it's not going to be a big endeavor once I can find the time, but I promise you I will try to find the time here soon.
Thank you, Giff.
Sure.
Annual reports. Ellen, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, we do have the one from 2018 from before my time that we haven't done anything with. So we will just distribute it and I guess post it. I'm not sure. Denise had the procedure down and I'm not sure it got related, but Ellen Huber has done a draft of the 2019. We combined 2019 and 2020, I believe. And so we've just been very busy with losing. We were without a branch chief for 2 months before Kelly got on board, in between the time that Denise left and then with the loss of Aaron. So we did do a draft and we will try to get that updated as soon as we can and pass that on to you. But we are tracking our ANF districts. We had, Ellen, do you have anything that you would, Ellen Huber, would you like to speak as to what the changes were in the last 2 years?
I believe we had a couple of new ANFs added in 2019 and about 3 to 5 withdrawn or no longer districts. And I think in 2020, we only had 1 added, and that was the Normandy Farms district.
Thank you, Ellen. So we'll try to get that to you by the next meeting, the 2019-2021. So we will have to set the next meeting, and we'll probably need to make the costers deadline of the PC hearing at the second to last week of September, or last week of September. We'll probably have to have it either very, very early September or in July sometime or August. I'm not sure. I think Kelly had, I'm not sure what if people's feelings are about meeting in August.
Yeah, we typically, as a practice in Fairfax County, try to avoid meeting in August because that's a lot. That's when the board and the planning commission are on recess, and that's when a lot of staff take vacation or people are just out of town for the summer holidays. So it's up to you guys if you want to meet in August. Like Ellen said, we're trying to use your time wisely, and if we can consolidate applications into one meeting, we'll do that. So it's really up to you guys how you want to proceed.
Let's save that discussion for a later time when we have more information available to us to make a decision.
Yeah, I think once we get the next two applications through the acceptance process, we'll be in a better position to know where we stand with dates. So Ellen or myself can follow up with you.
Do we have any further public comment? I want to thank our Ellens and staff particularly for their persistence in getting us together. I have learned that having a IT staff while you're employed is very handy until you have to figure out where to make your own computer work. So I've got some work to do there if we're going to do this again. But I thank you all, and I'm ready for the motion that is not subject to debate.
Move adjournment.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ready?
Have a great summer.
All right.
Nice job, Ellen.